Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Economic Briefcase. We are in the month of love. Happy belated Valentine's, our lovely viewers. And as we indicated last week, Economic Briefcase has embarked on a quarterly theme of our topics. So yet again today we're discussing the state of the economy. And we'll be featuring different guests to comment on a preferred topic each quarter. I would like to welcome you to the Economic Briefcase right here on Camnet TV, not just another channel. Before we digest our topic, I would like to introduce myself. I am your host, Noah Japao, with my co-host.
My name is SICHINGA. Thanks.
Today we have a very interesting guest with us to discuss the state of the economy, and he's been in the show before, and he's none other than Honorable Bob SICHINGA. Welcome, Honorable. It's good to have you again.
Thank you so much indeed, Noah, and also to SICHINGA. Thank you so much indeed for having me, and let me say also hello to the viewers and wishing them well for the new year. Despite all the challenges that face us, I think we have to remain hopeful, we have to remain faithful to our beliefs, and I hope that we will be able to dive into the actual details of what you'd like us to discuss this time.
Thank you very much. And I've just noticed that we are all wearing khaki chinos.
Incredible.
Pretty interesting. Okay, so before we get into the show, let's see what's happening on the financial markets. We have the money updates, market updates. Okay,
so we start looking at, first of all, the exchange rates. The average exchange rate as of 15th February. The dollar closed at 26.46. The pound at 3.21. The euro trading at 28.43. And the rand trading at 1.39. We move to selected metal prices, delayed by a day. So LME aluminum trading at $2,194. LME copper trading at $8,133.50. LME zinc trading at $2,285.50. Lead is trading at 2,023. Tin is trading at 27,265, with nickel trading at 16,115. We move to crude oil prices. WTI crude is trading at 78.04, with Brent crude trading at 82.84. That's all for the market update.
Thank you, Mr. SICHINGA. So today we're discussing the state of the economy with Honorable Bob SICHINGA. We are opening the phone lines. There are numbers scrolling on your screen. Make sure you send us a text message. Give us a call. We will open our phone lines early. Feel free to call in and make your contributions. So, looking at the market, the market hasn't been very good with us. So, I would like your brief comments before we can get into the nitty-gritties of the topic and head right to what we have prepared for you today.
Okay. Well, thank you so much indeed for availing me the chance, Noah. Suffice it to say that really from where I'm standing, I think the elephant in the room clearly is exchange rate. It's exchange rate which is driving the prices of not just the balance of payment per se, but also it's driving the prices of every other consumable item, as well as imported items throughout the economy. In this case, they are kind of, shall we say, depending on each other. The exchange rate will drive the high prices of commodities. If you have high prices, you've got a high cost economy. If you've got a high-cost economy, you make it unaffordable. If you make it unaffordable, you cannot grow. That's essentially what it is. It's a domino effect. That's what it does. And I was fortunate, having worked for the mines, myself and Honorable Hachpuka we didn't have laptops at that time, no, like you have right now. We had to do calculators, we had to do our own calculations of what was taking place. So in the UNIP days, they would ask us if, for example, the IMF came and said they wanted a devaluation of 20%, or they said, we want to change this, we want to change that, in order to look at the policy. The main consumer, of course, that was looked to was the mines. Okay. The other thing that I think is important for us to say is that if the consumption that is taking place is always higher than what the supply is, you know what the consequence is. Prices will go up. And essentially, we've got an insatiable appetite for dollar. We like to import things. Basically, it means that we're living beyond our means. We are in, as far as the foreign currency is concerned. It may be illustrative even for the viewers to know this, that 73% of our economy is dependent on South Africa. When I'm talking about the export and import, in particular, the imports from South Africa, 73% of our economy. So that means that the exchange rate with between the kwacha and the rand, just a short while ago, was at 1 to 1. Yes. It's now at 1.39, thanks to your update this evening. That means, therefore, that even the items where we import the most goods, 73% of our goods, is going to be very expensive for us. Okay, let alone other commodities come from other places. So that should be worrisome. In terms of the present situation, you would expect government and its agencies, in this case the Bank of Zambia, to intervene with particular measures. Mostly, in our case, it would have to be austerity measures. Austerity measures which reduce on your consumption so that you can be able to increase your foreign exchange retentions. The other thing that I think is important for us to understand is this. The privatization of the mines and the continuing privatization of the mines, let's put it that way, is not a help. And I've made this point, and I would like to think that those that are making the policies must understand this, that the moment you don't control your major source of foreign currency, you've lost it. Because the proceeds that are coming from the sale of copper will be retained by the people who own the mines. And if they retain those proceeds outside the country, it is not, that particular currency is not available locally for people that are seeking to import items. Now, we also don't control the items that are imported. So I can import an expensive, very expensive vehicle, for example, the Hummer and Mercedes-Benz and similar vehicles at a very high price. Where do I get the foreign currency from? I'm competing with the importation of medicines. I'm competing with those that are importing mining equipment. And the more we give away in terms of concessions to the mining sector, it means that more and more currency is retained outside the country. Now, recently, the Bank of Zambia is supposed to have introduced a statement, or rather a guideline, an order, if you want to call it that, to the banking sector, that now they must record. Please, I would like this to be emphasized. Record what is coming into the country in terms of the imports of copper. Now, that in itself is not an effective way. I'm talking about the interventions that the Bank of Zambia can make, because they're the ones that are controlling the foreign currency. So when you do that, you leave it up to the banks. The banks will use their discretions in terms of what they consider important. And so they will allow the customers who come to get foreign currency, which foreign currency the central bank would have purchased from the exporters of copper. They will have done that. So if the exporters of copper feel that the value is not sufficient, they want more for it, then they'll have to do that. And maybe the viewers might wish to know that the way the exchange rate is determined here is obviously the central bank goes around and asks each bank to indicate what they are buying and selling is supposed to be. And then they average it, or they level it, or they index it, and that produces the exchange rate of the day. So most of the people that have got the money, they've got the kwacha in this particular case, can afford to buy almost whatever at whatever price. Those that have got the dollars will watch the market and say, if the market is going towards a higher kwacha requirement for their dollar, they'll wait. and then obviously this does not help matters. They pushes the price up. Hence, you've seen that the exchange rate now is basically, I think yesterday it was 27 actually. It was 27.39 to one of the banks that I had gone to. That's what it was selling at. And so that, what it does, it just impacts negatively on the prices all around, and therefore it repeats itself over and over, and you have this domino effect. So I would say that as we stand at the moment, I am not so sure that the methods that the central bank is using, or indeed any other agencies, the ZRA and so on and so forth, are bearing fruit. And what tends to happen is that then there's a lot of pressure because the ZRA are given instructions to go out there and get as much as you possibly can. Make sure that we've got foreign exchange. We must use it, sorry, the kwacha. We must use it now for Constituency Development Fund, which is the best name, I suppose, for the UPND government at the moment. But we need to acknowledge that amount of expenditure, now I'm talking about the CDF, is an expenditure. It's not creating, it's not generating, all right? It's not generating foreign currency. It's not generating even local currency at the moment. Yes, eventually it may do that, but you need to have the programs in place that will eventually produce the amount of money that you require. So we have a situation where most of the people cannot afford, sending children to school, just being able to buy the shoes, and so on and so forth. Let me just finish with this particular. Butter shoe now is selling at 530 kwacha, a pair of butter shoes for a child to go to school. So while the government is talking about free education, there are so many other expenses which must be incurred to bring up that about. So the cost of living is high, and whenever that takes place, as usual, it means that you are going to have difficulties in terms of investment. So that I just wanted to make that point. So we've got the economy is basically in free fall at the moment. It's in free fall.
We have economic commentators, economists, being very optimistic about this year, mm-hmm. In terms of soaring copper prices that are projected. Mm-hmm. But also, some have gone as far as saying we might see the kwacha go down to 17 kwacha by mid-year, based on some developments such as the export-import framework, which basically tracks exports and imports, and subsequently compels organizations, corporations to bank their money within Zambia, and we're yet to see an influx of these resources being banked on, mm-hmm. In our economy, right. on our markets. What are your comments on this?
Okay. I don't know. I mean, I do not know which particular commentators have given this particular comment. But having said that, I do not know the basis of that optimism. I do not know. I have explained to you, whoever controls the foreign currency determines the price of his foreign currency. It's a fact. It's not in dispute. It's not something we can argue about. That's the way it is. Okay. Right now, you are expecting this currency to drop from 27 to 17 by mid-year.
What do you mean whoever controls the foreign currency?
Yeah. Does Zambia control the foreign currency?
Not at all.
No. Who does? Who does? The mines. They are the ones that have got the most the exports from the proceeds of export. If you look at non-traditional exports that the country makes, yes, it has gone up. There's no question about it. But it is not at a level which can support otherwise. And that you spoke because you gave the figures. I was just doing some calculations here. You gave the figures on the exchange rate, but what you didn't give us was the production side. You gave us the price of copper as 8,133, but you didn't give us the production. Now, without the production, you cannot look at the quantum that arises from those exports. The major exporter, whether you like it or not, is the copper. Right. Let's assume, in this case, that we're talking about 700,000 metric tons. The previous year, it was we were producing at just over 800,000 metric tons. At 700,000 metric tons, as we stand at the moment, is not going to rise. Who is producing this copper? Is Mopani producing? No. What is the level of production from KCM? What is level of production that's coming from FQM? and the others on the northwestern side. So without those figures, it's not possible for you to calculate that now the figure will drop almost by half, according to what this commentary was being made. So I did some calculations. If we're producing 700,000 metric tons at 8,133, you are raising an amount of around 6 billion US dollars. That's what you're generating. How much of that is used by the mines themselves? Because only what is left over is what they can offer to the market. Otherwise, they will have to use it to import the reagents, to import the equipment, to import the plant, and so on and so forth. So, in order to be able to make statement, it's clearly coming from a position of ignorance. Okay, let me just tell you that I was Group Financial Control for ZCCM, so I can tell you what each one of those mines is producing. Okay, I was a financial control at Mufulira mine, which is part of Mopani, and I can tell you that these figures that we're talking about here are collective. And that's why in the previous interview when we discussed this, there was a question of saying we'd like to get to 3 million metric tons. You'll never do it. That I can tell you straight away.
There's been news going around that the new copper deposits in Zambia,
yes,
that will actually drive our production.
When?
Well, there are no specific timelines.
This is the whole point. You know, that's why I said it's based on ignorance.
I think it will put us second to
Chile.
Chile.
No. Listen to me. Listen to me. When you are developing a mine, it takes a lot of time. Even post, where you've identified your ore body and so on and so forth. We have known for a long time that Zambia has got some of the biggest deposits. But how do you get to it? Let's take Konkola. And let's take now the specific one, which is the Konkola Deep, if you want. Okay? Where is that body? How do you reach it? That's the one that connects to the Congolese belt. Okay? That is the one that is running from the northeast to the southwest. All right? We are, as Zambia, we are on the fringe of it. We are on the peripheral of it. But when you go to Konkola and as you're going towards the Congo, that's where you're now getting, if you want more, to the crest of that ore body. Now, there are other deposits, yes, in the northwestern province. There's a lot of them, but they take time. And that's why now there's been resorting to open pit mining rather than underground. Why? Because Konkola Deep, for example, has got huge quantities of water. You have to dehydrate that place in order to access the ore body. To do that, you have to take time to develop those mines in terms of the shafts that you've got to sink and so on and so forth. Even more so, it's not just getting to the ore body. You have to develop your stops in a wet place. So this issue of people saying that, yes, we've got big deposits, of course we have. Just like we've got so many other metals that are of very great value, but you can't access them or process them in a manner that is going to be profitable to you. In any case, who is going to own these proceeds? It is still the people that own the mines. Who owns the mines? Let's take FQM. You had 20% there. What happened? This government, this PUPND government, gave away that 20%. So they have no holding in that particular company. What claim have they got? None. What did they also do? They did something else, which I think, as far as I'm concerned, is so ill-advised. Okay? Not only did you give away your shareholding, you did something else. You reduced your mineral royalty tax from 6% to 3%. Now, if you take the figures I've just given to you, if I take 6 billion on 700,000 metric tons at 8,133, what you're talking about is 6% previously. Now it's at 3%. What does that do? It reduces the amount by half that you can be able to access in foreign currency, which you have got control over. Right? So how are you going to get to 17? I asked the question. Whoever was doing the calculations, he should come to me and I can advise him because I'm an accountant. So this issue of saying, no, it will be like this, it will be like this, is wishful thinking. It takes a long time to develop the mine, usually between 5 years to 10 years to get to that particular stage.
So, Honorable, with the intervention by various government agencies,
such as
the Bank of Zambia,
yes,
where, for instance, we like yesterday we had this is getting to the exchange rate that we obviously talked about, the policy rate, where they had to intervene and increase to by 150 basis points. We've also had interventions such as the statutory reserve ratio obviously with trying to reduce the amount of kwacha in circulation.
Yeah.
Do you think, or don't you think those interventions will bring some changes?
Mr. Let's just look at the effects of this, okay? And I don't want us to talk about it in a vacuum. We must be practical,
yes.
Okay? You increase the policy rate by 150 basis points.
Yes.
What does that do to the interest rate? What does it do? It increases the interest rate,
yes.
Right? Who is borrowing at a higher rate? What does the higher rate of interest do to profitability? It diminishes it. Okay? Is that what you want for a person who is making investment? No. It does the very reverse. When you reduce, you talk about statutory reserves. What does statutory reserves do? What do they do? When you have statutory reserves that are increased, it means that that money is no longer in circulation because you're trying to squeeze the, you're squeezing the market. What does that do to prices? They go up. What does that do to cost of living? It goes up. Just go, right now, I live very close to Bauleni. The guys have now said to me, SICHINGA, we are now having to pay, they were paying 18 kwacha to get from Bauleni into town. They're now paying 25 kwacha. Right? So how much more disposable incomes do you have, even at that level? Then you go to the business. What does it do? What do the people in business do when prices, when they are buying, they are borrowing at higher rate?
Are you saying that is detrimental to the economy?
It is detrimental.
Are you saying it has got no effect?
It has an effect.
Especially on inflation?
Yeah, no, it has an effect. The effect is to increase costs. You know it as well as I do. When you increase interest rates, what does that do? The exchange rate also is going up. What do you think the person who is importing goods from South Africa or from China or from anywhere else do about those goods? They're not going to sell them at the cheapest price at which they imported. They will sell them at the expected price when they have to buy the foreign currency. What price will they buy the foreign currency at? Will it be at 26? Will it be at 27? Will it be at 28? So they anticipate. As good business people would do, they anticipate. So what do? They will charge higher. And the prices of those commodities must go up. In an environment where you're having increased costs, what happens to purchasing power? It drops. It does. That's exactly what it does. I mean, this is simple economics. I mean, anybody who has done accountancy knows that. Anybody who has done economics knows that's exactly what happens. So to come back to the point that you're making, this issue of the import-export controls, okay, this is what basically has been done. Why haven't we had this before? What happens to, just as an example, what happens to the sale of emeralds? How much do the emeralds sell? We are now producing more than Colombia.
Emeralds are fetching a higher price than
yes, but where are the profits? Look at Bank of Zambia report. Ask them, how much did we get for emeralds? How much did we get for nickel? How much did we get for sodalite? How much did we get for other metals? Where is the price?
Honorable,
yeah.
So the intervention.
Go ahead with your question.
Yeah, sure.
Make sure you send us your messages on the number scrolling down on your screen. Feel free to give us a call, make your contributions. You can go ahead and.
There is just before Issachus comes in. What happens to the mines? Why are the suppliers to the mining industry not being paid? They are owed money right now by KCM, correct?
Correct.
Uh-huh. What happens to those people who are supplied? What happens to their businesses? You kill them. So you are killing local industries. You cannot even do local production because you have to import most of the items in order to have local processing. Then what happens when you've got this situation? This is self-explanatory. It's very, very basic. So basic that I'm shocked that people don't seem to think this has got, especially those that are policymakers.
So, Honorable, the interventions obviously are meant to help the situation at the moment. So we talked about the export proceeds control, which the law came into effect 1st of January. So which gives exporters up to 90 days to bring in those proceeds.
Why 90 days?
Obviously, we talk about the policy there.
No,
so
but
just before you come in.
No.
Sorry, let me finish my question.
Don't finish your question. Hold that question.
Hold.
Why has it not worked before?
So hold your thought on that particular. Let's say the government has done its homework. That comes into effect. We're talking of 90 days. Let's end of March. Don't you think, with that coming into effect, then we'll see an influx of foreign forex, which
in 90 days?
Yes.
Why hasn't it worked now? Because there's a law right now. There's a law about proceeds. It's not free range. It's not you can do as you like. No.
So obviously we're talking of 90 days. Let's say the law says 90 days.
All right. So the law says 90 days.
You've exported. Let's say you exported on 1st of January. You have up to 90 days. You can decide
end of March.
Yes. So let's say March. You bring in that.
Or 1st of April. Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
You bring in those proceeds. Don't you think that will help in
all right.
improving the?
Let's ask the question. Next question. At what price? Okay. You have to understand this. What these guys do. Let me tell you this. Let's take, and I'm going to take this because I know that this is a fact. Okay? Let's talk about Mopani. Where was Mopani selling its copper to? Every single invoice shows that it was going to Switzerland. Yes. How much of it went to Switzerland? None. Okay?
On paper, it went to Switzerland.
On paper. Yes. I'm asking you, in reality, where did it go?
To the buyers.
To the buyers. Who sells to those buyers? Vedant, in this particular case, all right, Glencore's subsidiaries. Okay? So, Glencore, producing as Mopani, sends to its own subsidiaries at a lower price than market price. Now, the Zambian copper has always had a premium on it because of its purity. With electric cars and all the other things that require higher levels of purity of that copper, it is not even a higher premium. Why haven't we seen those proceeds here? Because the law does require that they bring the items here. Because I've just explained to you, they own the foreign currency.
So quite right. You've explained where we're losing some money, of course, a lot of money in these processes.
Yeah.
But don't you, coming back to his question, don't you think that if these multi-million corporations are compelled to at least bank their money for a certain period of time, let's say because of that policy, in the next 90 days we have these people bringing in their money on our banking system, and these banks have all this money with them, which they will eventually have to lend out to the population, to the people. No, this will be money in our economy. No. Don't you think it will have any effect on the
Why hasn't it not happened before? Because there's a law in place on proceeds.
Is it the same as the current?
No. I mean, what you're doing is you're tightening it. You are not compelling them as to where they take the money to. Let me tell you this. I'm now going to give you, even as I was serving as Minister of Commerce, Trade and Industry, I had exactly the same questions. When a company comes and registers itself here in our country, and you give them even concessions, we register them, you issue a certificate of investment, you register them, they may not necessarily bring in foreign currency. They may not. They may bring in goods, which they've inflated, because obviously they know they can take advantage of that. Okay? So what I'm saying to you is that the issues of this, whatever is taking place now, is not a new thing. It has always been there. It has always been there. What we're seeing here is a tightening of the system to make sure there is accountability. In fact, there is resistance to it. Okay? So what I'm saying to you is that it's nothing new. It's not something that, which says that now, all of a sudden, it's going to be tight. And they are resisting that as much as possible. And we're going to have a lot of this change in terms of, all right, now we're going to sell through our subsidiary companies who are going to do transfer pricing. And when they've done the transfer pricing, then they can get more money. Okay? Then you've got another issue. That other issue is that if you are sending blister copper, You know the big lumps, okay? You are exporting gold in it. You are exporting silver in it. You are exporting palladium in it. Have you going to stop that too? So what I'm saying to you is that, you know, you have to have known how this system works. Okay? So I'm not saying to you that there should be no interventions. I'm just saying these interventions are not the effective interventions. And I've given you the reasons for it. You're not controlling the foreign currency. You are asking them to bring the foreign currency into the country. So if their subsidy company shows that, well, we bought from Zambia, let's say in this particular case, not at 8,133, but at 7,000. 7,900. You know how much you're losing? And you've got a small economy. For me, the solution is not this. The solution is to make sure that you are using your copper to do the processing locally, so that you can then control that, create jobs for our children, and make sure that we're exporting to the highest level possible finished commodities.
But what has been the challenge? What has been the challenge?
I've just explained to you why.
In doing so.
I've just explained to you. That's what I'm saying. I'm asking exactly the same question. I'm saying this rule has been in place all the time. Why has it not been applied?
What I mean is, what has been the challenge to set up processing plants of...
Because we haven't put focus on it as a country. We have not. Look, at privatization stage, Noah, what happened? You know that we're producing gold at Ndora Copper Refinery? Do you know that we're producing silver at Ndora Copper Refinery? Do you know that we're producing palladium at Ndora Copper Refinery? Do you know that? So in this situation, when you've got electric cars, what would we have been doing? We would have been sitting smiling. What did we do? Do you know that the plant is no longer there? So, wrong policy environment. That's what I'm saying to you. We have to rethink the whole thing. We have to ask ourselves, what is in the best interest of our country? What's in the best interest of us as Zambians? That's what I'm saying. You know, 700,000, you know how much Zamefa uses of that 700,000? No more than, at most, when I was at Zamefa, we were producing less than 5,000. We're using, rather, consuming less than 5,000 metric tons. At a time where we were using 500,000 metric tons of copper. So this is the wrong policy. We've never changed it. And I'm talking about, I was at Zamefa in 1974. It didn't happen. This is what? 2024. So you ask me the question? This is where, for me, that would have been the better change of policy. And I know that many times they criticize, oh, you people did not do it, now you are telling us and we must do this. Yes, order changes. It yields place to new. So we need to rethink our whole policy framework. After all, you are lecturing, so you need to give us the solutions. What do you say?
You are watching the Economic Briefcase on Cownet TV. Make sure you send us your contributions on the numbers on your screen. Directly, the phone lines are open. I think we can open the phone line and phone lines. And I encourage the viewers to participate and make their contributions. Okay, so,
right. Yeah.
Coming back to the topic, we are discussing the state of the economy. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about commodity prices, especially the millennial prices. Mm-hmm. What mechanisms can we put in place to make sure that our staple food can be kept affordably for everyone?
Yes.
If you want to go and eat your expensive meal, you can go and eat your expensive meal, but there should be affordable staple food.
Sure. You raise a very important issue, but the current prices, which are almost unaffordable, 300 and something. I think the day before yesterday, we bought some meal at home, 356, I think it was breakfast meal. Now, I was at agriculture as minister. It is quite clear to me that the issues of restrictions, the issues of how we use the FISIP are part of the problem. And even the accountability of that are part of the problem. Okay? Let's talk about the cooperatives. Okay? Because almost every cooperative you have in this country exists because you want to have access to fertilizer, FISIP fertilizer. Good idea when it was started, 2002, 2003, it was started. I think it's a very good idea to make sure that people are able to earn sufficient to sustain their lives, but at the same time to have something they can be able to sell. The question is, If fertilizer seed was being distributed in northern province yesterday, when do you think they will plant? Yesterday, that's when they were distributing in northern province in Wapula. Yesterday. The rains are over here, but there the rains are on. But you plant in February. So it's a policy framework. Right? I will just share this with you for whatever it's worth, and I'm not trying to beat my own drum. When I was minister, we distributed fertilizer. The first issue that we did was in June of 2013. June 2013. We started with outlying areas, the rural areas, where access is difficult when you go to rainy season. So we did that. And we said for the nearer peri-urban and also urban areas, we're going to do them last. How many people had access to it? 900,000 people. 900,000 families, households if you want, that had access to that. How much do we need to consume? This country consumes 1,250,000 metric tons locally. We also send to Congo, especially Katanga, 750,000 metric tons. So the two figures combined will bring us to 2 million metric tons of maize. Now, while I was in office, I decided we're not going to be sending maize to any other country. We're going to send them milli meal. The problem you have with that is that they say, well, if you send to us milli meal within a month, it will spoil, and so on and so forth. So there are all those particular issues. So what I'm saying is that if I was doing it, again, right now, if I had the power to do that, I would open the borders. Right? And let Katanga invest their money in what they want in those cooperatives and make sure that the provisions of fertilizer to those cooperatives are accountable so that we can be able to generate sufficient and not calling people who are wanting to sell their milli meal to Katanga, right, as smugglers. They're not smugglers.
What happens to our food security?
What do you mean? How much do we consume? I've just given you the figures. 2 million. Our biggest problem is not even production, Noah. It's not production. It's storage. We lose 30% of the production of maize just to handle. 30%.
So, the government had done that, where they started exporting, and we've seen what happened. There was like Now that caused the prices of our local community.
No, it has nothing to do with that. I tell you that. Let me tell you this. I have just given you the formula. Make sure that these people are, if you want, they're like outgrowers programs. We haven't got a program like that where we say this is specifically for Katanga, this is specifically for maybe Zimbabwe if they want, or Tanzania, or Botswana, and so on and so forth.
But technically, these commodities fetch more there, so we'll have more people getting what is on our market and going to sell to Congo for the margin.
It's a management. Then it becomes a management issue. You see, you cannot export that without a license from ministry.
And that's why they call smugglers.
No, but I'm just telling you, you need that. But if the arrangement has been made where people invest their money in the production process here, whether they're from Katanga, Botswana, whatever, they say, you give the money so that we can do the production. Then it has to be managed as a program. As a program. Tell me what's wrong with that. Government is managing it. If you want, you can even go further than that. Okay? You go to FRA, and so FRA, whatever you're buying, this portion is for export. It will have come from this source, from this source, from this source, which were put in place, those cooperatives. This other one is, remember, FRA is a food reserve agency. That's their assignment. But you can put another division that is handling the export side. There's nothing difficult about it. I was managing the ministry, so I can tell you that. Okay? So what I'm saying is that without a program with specific objectives and methods of doing so, we will continue to have the same situation. And yet the market is yawning. When people are fetching more, what does that mean? That there's a market. Right, so produce for the market.
On a lighter note, there's this thing that has been going around saying, how now do you stop people taking the mini meal into Congo where it fetches more? Is it that we are also supposed to hike our prices on the market so that it stays here?
It will. No. I mean, Congo there comes a price that is level. In fact, when I was in office, I decided I was going to do something I was going to take a good quantity at Kasumbalesa. Let the guys from Katanga come and buy, all right, and take it there. We manage it and let them go through the normal customs process. There's no smuggling. We're managing. Okay. Another question, Mr. Stoney, for you, from Isoka. You can produce as much maize as you want.
So the
because no, that's what this side. If you look at our rain pattern, it's lowest in Gweme and highest in Chiengi, right, and also northwestern. What I'm saying to you is that we have not been imaginative enough to get we got to get agriculture organized. That is a fact, including storage, right? Not on what you call them, the pores, and then the whole thing just gets wet because of moisture and so on and so forth. We waste a lot of that. 30% is what is wasted post harvest. 30%. So if you have produced, just for argument's sake, you have produced 1 million, how much of that are you losing? 30%, 300,000.
The interventions you've suggested is only targeting or focusing on the viscid side of that. How about the commercial farmer? How about
commercial farmer? Look, Stone, no commercial farmer produces for this country. Show me give me one example. Every food that we have, all the food security in this country comes from small scale. The only big one that you can talk about is the one that is being done now by Zambia National Service. Okay? But let's go a little further. We just need to be more imaginative. Okay? If you want to do it that way on a large scale, you already have.
We have a caller. Just hold your thought.
Sure.
Hello.
Hello. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
This is Mukandawire calling from Luansha.
Yes, Mr. Mukandawire from Luansha. How is the evening going?
Dr. Mukandawire. That's right.
Okay. Welcome to the program. Go ahead and make a contribution, Dr. Mukandawire.
Yeah. Number one, I want to find out. Recently, we heard that Bank of Zambia is purchasing the gold to increase their reserves. Where are they getting this gold? Is it from ZCCM, IH, or where is it? So, also number two, is this gold processed? And if so, where is it processed? And number three, if it is being processed within Zambia, why are we failing to get this gold from these small-scale miners to process it and then export it? And then the other thing is, where are these like manganese, sugilite, which is being mined by these small-scale mines? Where is this sugilite going? Thank you so much.
Okay, so those are questions from Dr. Mukandawire from Luansha. Why are they getting the gold? Is it the CCM?
Yeah, gold is in most cases, as far as mines are concerned, is produced as a byproduct. Okay, just like cobalt, it's a byproduct of copper. All right. Now, I'm not saying that you cannot find gold on its own. You can, but in most cases, it comes as a byproduct. And Dr. Mukandawire raises very important issues, and this is exactly what I was saying as we discussed this earlier. The problem is lack of accountability. I used the example of emeralds. Where is the account at Bank of Zambia showing that this is what we sold for emeralds? None. And Dr. Mukandawire, you talk about the gold that is being bought. I'm not aware that they bought this gold. But in our days, when I was at ZCCM, what was happening is that every byproduct that we had, the central bank was buying from Ndola Copper Refinery, which it was adding to its own reserves, okay, to its own Bank of Zambia reserves. In other words, we were producing our own gold reserves. We were also producing silver, which was being processed and into finished products in Ghana. Okay, so
we actually have another caller. So those questions will still be on standby. Yes, go ahead and make your contribution. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yes, this is Katongo. In short, I'm calling for Woodlands.
Yes, Mr. Shorter.
Yes, sir. I wanted to seek clarity from Honorable SICHINGA over the issue of the export intervention policy that government has instituted, I need clarity in layman terms on what has been the policy. He mentioned that it's just a tightening of the policy. What has been the framework in the past, and to the effect that the way they will tighten the policy as it is now from his expert point of view? Is it that from other commentators we are also having some hope that perhaps the pressure was going to reduce and stay stabilized perhaps in the 15-17? Now, he's saying that will not be the case because it's not a new intervention, it's not a new thing. So I just need clarity on what the policy prior to the one which was executed in January. Is it that all the policy, let's say they say even at 7,900 when the base price is 10,000, has the policy in the past been that 7,900 despite transfer price? Is the whole process going, has it been coming to one year? Or mines have just been sending what they need for operational expenditure? And now with the new intervention, are we expecting for the whole of that 7,900 price at our kilometric tons to stay in our Zambian economy? And then to have that effect? And then, yeah, I hope you understand.
Thank you, Mr. Mshota, for that brilliant contribution.
All right.
So I think maybe we can finish off.
Finish off with Dr. Mkanawire, then we'll come to this one. Well, Dr. Mkanawire, you talked about the issue of processing. Most of the mines should be able to produce gold if they take it through to what we call the tank house or the refinery. Okay, because if you look at the processes that take place, Johnny, what happens is that you start obviously from mining. You can start from the primary mining, where you produce the rock, and then you process it through to secondary crushing until it goes to the concentrator. From the concentrator, you basically have a powder, a black powder, which you then feed into the smelter. And once it comes into the smelter, then you've got the shape that you want. Okay, it basically melts. I mean, you heat it up to 9,000 degrees centigrade, and then as it comes down, it is molten. Okay, from that stage, normally if you're talking about cathodes, you take them now to the tank house to do the electrolysis, where you're now transferring and refining it. So normally at the bottom of each tank house, there are what are called slimes. In the slimes is where you find the gold, the silver, and so on and so forth. But that has to be processed further in order to now have the final product of the gold material and the silver material and the palladium. Now, in the past, we had Ndola Copper Refinery doing that process. So if within the mines, they've got that capacity, especially refineries, they've got that, and they will have this. But the question is, whose gold is it? It obviously belongs to the people that are producing. And they can sell it like they sell copper. Now, gold, in my opinion, we really should have had a law a long time ago. We should have had a law which says that gold, silver, and what these precious metals, you cannot sell them even if you are the producer without the authority of the government, right? And therefore, you would have to control it at the level of sale. Now, both Dr. Mkanawire and Mr. Kasongo, Mr. Mshota, the issue is that before that, I think those of you, the two of you, I would imagine you're old enough to know that we had a company called MEMACO, Metal Marketing Corporation. It had a branch in the house that now is a pension house, in the opposite Findigo House. All right, that's where MEMACO was. Now MEMACO was in charge of selling. Whatever you produced, you gave it to it. Then in that case, we had the CCM, of course, and it was a parastatal. So it would obviously do its own, produce, and send it now for the selling. And MEMACO, Metal Marketing Corporation, would then sell on behalf of the government to the highest price. Now, the moment you privatized, that process now became the responsibility of the producers. We did not enforce it. And as far as I'm concerned, we should have done that. I know that of many countries, I have been to many countries where any major commodity, let's take Saudi Arabia, just as an example, all right? Their major product is oil. What do they do with oil? You cannot export oil without parliamentary authority. So anytime anybody is placing big orders, it goes to parliament and they have to agree. Why can't we do the same? There's nothing to stop us from doing that because this is major commodity for you, major source of foreign currency. So once that has been done, Doc, it is normally done at a refinery, either in a company that is doing this or at a specific location which just processes nothing but to produce gold and silver. Now, this is what I said. I said that when a company is producing blister, this is 1-ton lamps,
Yes.
okay? It goes with gold. It goes with silver. Wherever it goes. And what they do is they take that, refine it, and take the gold out. So this is something that, for me, that should have been the intervention. That should have been the intervention to control. And, in the past, we would normally make sure that what goes out of the mine gate is accounted for. This time, I don't know what happens. So, Dr. Mkandawira, I'm sorry, I'm not able to answer that. I can only say to you, the gold must be processed from the operation itself. Yes, you can buy from small-scale operators, artisanal miners, and so on and so on. There are some of the outputs which are very rich. They can be able to produce this. Or some at small scale, small quantities, which must be brought in. So this is a management issue. It's a law that must be enforced. Mr. Mshota also talks about the commitment that the government has made about the proceeds. Okay. Now, I don't know. I mean, I think this is something
basically his question was leaning more on what has always been done.
Yes, I was just coming to that. Yeah, I'm just coming to that. I've got that. This is basically to enforce the operation. This issue of how to account for that money, it has always been there. I remember well in 2003, we debated this with my friend late Magande, okay, Nando Magande, and I raised this issue. I said the way you've got this law couched is open to abuse, and that's exactly what happened. It has happened because the exporters are abusing it. They want to keep as much money outside, and indeed, some shorter, they only bring back what they need. Otherwise, why are the suppliers not being paid as of this day from KCM and even from Mopani? Why haven't they been paid? It's because this is exactly what they've been doing. They just bring sufficient for their operations, and mostly salaries, as it were. So this is a management issue again, and for me, we should be spending less time talking about we're going to get people from outside to come and run these mines. We should not even allow somebody else to do these mines. Chile does not allow that. You talked about Chile. Chile does not allow that, Mr. Mshota, all right, and Dr. Mkandawira. What they do is they insist that it must be processed within their country. You're talking about Chile, right? It produces more than 3 million metric tons, but they've got a different ore body altogether. And the richness of the grade of a deposit determines how much you can be able to produce. Some of our mines are very lean. Take Luansha, for example. You are talking about a grade of, say, 1.12, okay? 1.12% from every ton that you produce, okay? It's only Baluba that has got a better, a richer ore body. So in this case, it's a management issue, and the policies must be such that they protect Zambia's interests, is what was basically
so,
yes.
What you've given us, like you've said, policy, these take time. What are some of the short-term measures? No, because you've said interventions are not helping.
No.
We're talking about now to address the current situation. What are some of the short-term measures as we wind up?
Yeah. This particular the intervention that has been talked about, where you're saying the banks, must make sure that the money comes back. No, it should really be going to central bank. If Memako or something like Memako was doing it, there would be no problem. So that policy, Sean, can be done immediately. What is there to stop it? Just like they've done now. What is there to stop it? None. No, nothing to stop it if you want to do that.
Director, as we come to the close of the show, can we read some messages, if at all there are any? Okay. No messages. Any last comments, Mr. Sichone?
We've run out of time. It's been a pleasure hosting you, sir. We obviously look forward to hosting you again, because as you've seen, we've just scratched the surface. Yes. Thanks for coming.
Okay, thank you so much indeed.
I have been your host, Noah Njapao, with my co-host, Mr. Sichona. We were having Honorable Bob Sichinga discussing the state of the economy. Make sure you join us next week again for yet another interesting guest discussing the state of the economy, as we are going to be discussing a theme each quarter. So this theme will be coming to an end probably at the end of this quarter, and we'll have another theme. So next week we'll be discussing the state of the economy again. So make sure you find time to join us. You've been watching the Economic Briefcase on Camnet TV. Camnet TV, not just another channel. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, and thank you to the bye-bye to the viewers.